In this lesson, we'll be talking about the Webkit Web Inspector. Throughout the rest of this training, I'll be making extensive use of the inspector to look at DOM elements and to execute JavaScript code. In Google Chrome, you can get to it by right-clicking on any element and choosing Inspect Element. This is what the Webkit Inspector looks like. Over on the left-hand side, we can look at all of the different DOM elements. For example, here's the body. Here's a div called top. Here's a div called main. And you can see what these things actually visually represent by rolling over them. Additionally, when you click on them, you can see what CSS is applied to the elements in the right-hand pane. In addition, you can press the Escape key to open up the console. Here you can execute any arbitrary JavaScript you'd like. For example, alert, hi there. Now the page will execute that JavaScript within that domain of apple.com, and it'll pop up with a modal dialog box. Now just these features alone give us a lot of flexibility. Suddenly we can debug our applications, we can log things out to the console using console.log, and we can see what IDs and classes are applied to the various elements. Now the Webkit Inspector actually has a lot more functionality in terms of looking at the resources in your page, looking at the way it impacts the network, looking at the various scripts you have loaded, creating a timeline to see what elements in your page are taking the longest to load, to run the script, or to render, and also for doing basic profiles or audits. I would highly recommend you all take a look at the Webkit Web Inspector. There's a lot in here far beyond the scope of this course, but you won't regret it if you figure out what all these panels do. Now, if you don't like Google Chrome and you'd prefer to use Apple's Safari, Safari does have the Webkit Inspector because it's based on Webkit just like Google Chrome. However, when you right-click, you'll notice it doesn't appear in here. In order to enable the Web Inspector in Safari, click Safari, Preferences, and under the Advanced tab, click Show Develop menu in Menu Bar. When you click on that, you get this menu up here, and you can right-click, and there is Inspect Element. If you're using Firefox, take a look at Firebug. Firebug is a web extension that adds onto the browser. It provides very similar functionality to the Webkit Web Inspector. Opera also has a web inspector that's based on a different code base. Throughout this lesson, I'm going to be using the Webkit Inspector, so if you want to follow along with me, go ahead and use Safari or use Google Chrome and the Webkit Inspector that's built in. That concludes this lesson on the Webkit Web Inspector.